Have you ever wondered why some people seem deeply interested one moment, then suddenly pull away the next? When someone has avoidant attachment tendencies, commitment is rarely about a lack of feelings. More often, it's about fear, emotional overwhelm, and the need to protect independence. The harder someone chases, pressures, or demands reassurance, the stronger those walls can become. But psychology reveals something fascinating. There are certain emotional experiences that naturally lower defenses and create a sense of safety. These aren't manipulation tactics or mind games. They're powerful psychological turn-ons that make emotional connection feel comfortable instead of threatening. In this video, we'll explore 6 psychological triggers that help an avoidant person feel safe enough to open up, trust deeper, and move toward commitment. If you've ever felt confused by mixed signals or emotional distance, these insights may completely change the way you understand connection and attraction. For someone with avoidant attachment tendencies, emotional closeness can feel both deeply desired and quietly threatening at the same time. That contradiction is what confuses so many people in relationships. One moment there is warmth, connection, and chemistry. The next, there is distance, silence, or emotional withdrawal. It is easy to assume the feelings disappeared, but often the opposite is true. The connection started to feel emotionally intense, and the nervous system responded by creating space. That is why emotional safety without pressure is such a powerful psychological turn-on. When a relationship feels calm, accepting, and non-demanding, it lowers the internal alarm that usually tells an avoidant person to pull back. Instead of feeling trapped, they begin to feel safe enough to stay present. Pressure in relationships does not always look obvious. It can show up as constant reassurance seeking, emotional ultimatums, repeated questioning about commitment, or expecting immediate vulnerability. Even subtle signals like overanalyzing every text, reacting strongly to delayed replies, or making the relationship the center of everything can create a feeling of emotional intensity that becomes overwhelming. For an avoidant person, that intensity can feel like losing control or losing freedom. Emotional safety is the opposite of that experience. It is the feeling that connection can happen naturally, at a healthy pace, without emotional force. It communicates, "You are accepted as you are. You do not have to perform, prove, or rush your feelings." That message is incredibly disarming. One of the most attractive things you can do is create an atmosphere where emotions are welcomed, but not demanded. Instead of pushing for deeper conversations every time there is distance, respond with steadiness and openness. Instead of assuming withdrawal means rejection, allow room for the person to regulate emotionally without punishment or drama. This does not mean tolerating unhealthy behavior or abandoning your own needs. It means responding from security rather than fear. People with avoidant tendencies are often highly sensitive to feeling emotionally engulfed. They may have learned early in life that closeness came with pressure, criticism, unpredictability, or loss of autonomy. Because of that, they unconsciously associate intimacy with stress. But when someone consistently offers calm acceptance, that association begins to change. Intimacy starts to feel less dangerous. Another important part of emotional safety is allowing vulnerability to unfold naturally. Avoidant individuals may open up slowly and in small moments rather than through dramatic emotional conversations. A quiet confession, a thoughtful gesture, or a moment of honesty may be their version of vulnerability. When those moments are met with warmth instead of overwhelming intensity, trust deepens. Paradoxically, the less someone feels pushed toward commitment, the more emotionally available they can become. Safety creates openness. Pressure creates resistance. This is why emotionally secure people are often so magnetic to avoidant individuals. They offer closeness without desperation, connection without control, and affection without emotional suffocation. When a relationship feels emotionally safe, an avoidant person no longer needs their walls to feel protected. And once those walls begin to soften, genuine intimacy has a chance to grow naturally and sustainably. For someone with avoidant attachment tendencies, independence is not just a preference, it is often a core part of how they feel safe in relationships. While many people interpret the desire for space as a lack of interest or emotional investment, that assumption is frequently incorrect. In reality, the need for autonomy can exist alongside deep feelings of affection and attraction. Understanding this distinction is essential because one of the strongest psychological turn-ons for an avoidant person is being with someone who respects independence rather than viewing it as a threat. Many avoidant individuals have developed a strong sense of self-reliance over the years. Whether through childhood experiences, past relationships, or personal coping patterns, they learn to depend primarily on themselves. As a result, they often feel uncomfortable when a relationship begins to consume too much of their personal space, time, or identity. When someone expects constant communication, continuous togetherness, or complete emotional availability, it can trigger a feeling of being trapped. The natural response is often to create distance in order to regain a sense of balance and control. What makes respect for independence so attractive is that it removes this fear. When someone demonstrates confidence in themselves and their own life, it sends a reassuring message. Connection does not require sacrificing freedom. This allows the avoidant person to relax because they no longer feel responsible for carrying another person's emotional world. Instead of feeling pressured, they begin to experience the relationship as a source of support and enjoyment. Confidence plays a major role here. People who have fulfilling lives, personal goals, hobbies, friendships, and interests often appear more attractive because they are not relying entirely on the relationship for happiness or validation. This creates a healthier dynamic, where both individuals can grow as separate people while still building a meaningful connection together. For an avoidant person, this balance is incredibly appealing because it aligns with their need for personal space. Respecting independence also means avoiding the temptation to interpret every request for space as rejection. Many relationships become strained because distance is immediately met with anxiety, accusations, or emotional pressure. The avoidant person then feels misunderstood, which reinforces the desire to pull away even further. However, when space is respected calmly and confidently, something different happens. Trust begins to grow. The relationship starts to feel safe because there is no constant battle between closeness and freedom. Another important aspect is allowing individuality to remain intact. Healthy relationships do not require two people to merge into one identity. They thrive when both people continue pursuing their passions, dreams, and personal development. An avoidant individual often feels most comfortable when they know they can maintain their sense of self while also being emotionally connected. This reduces the fear that commitment will lead to losing personal freedom. Ironically, the more someone feels free to choose connection, the more likely they are to move toward it willingly. When independence is respected, emotional walls begin to lower because there is less need for self-protection. The relationship no longer feels like a threat to autonomy. Instead, it becomes a place where closeness and freedom can coexist. This is why respect for independence is such a powerful psychological turn-on. It communicates trust, confidence, emotional maturity, and security. Rather than chasing, controlling, or clinging, it creates an atmosphere where connection can grow naturally. And when an avoidant person discovers that love does not require giving up who they are, commitment often becomes far less intimidating and far more desirable. One of the most powerful qualities that attracts an avoidant person is calm confidence during moments of distance. While many people instinctively react to emotional withdrawal with worry, frustration, or panic, those reactions can unintentionally increase the very behavior they are trying to stop. For someone with avoidant attachment tendencies, emotional pressure often feels overwhelming. The more intense the reaction to their need for space, the stronger their urge may become to pull away. This is why calm confidence is such a powerful psychological turn-on. It creates a sense of safety instead of tension. Distance can be difficult to understand. When communication slows down, plans become less frequent, or emotional expression becomes limited, it is natural to wonder what is happening. Many people immediately assume the worst. They start overthinking every interaction, searching for hidden meanings, and looking for reassurance. The problem is that this anxiety often shows up in the relationship through repeated messages, demands for explanations, emotional confrontations, or constant checking for signs of interest. While these reactions come from a desire to feel secure, they can make an avoidant person feel pressured and emotionally cornered. Calm confidence sends a completely different message. It communicates emotional stability. Instead of reacting from fear, a confident person remains grounded and composed. They understand that temporary distance does not automatically mean rejection or loss of interest. This ability to stay emotionally balanced creates an atmosphere that feels much safer for someone who is sensitive to pressure. What makes calm confidence so attractive is that it demonstrates self-assurance. It shows that happiness, identity, and emotional well-being do not depend entirely on the relationship. An avoidant person often feels more comfortable around individuals who can manage their own emotions rather than expecting someone else to regulate them. This reduces feelings of responsibility and allows the connection to feel lighter and more natural. Another reason calm confidence is so effective is that it removes the fear of conflict. Many avoidant individuals associate emotional intensity with arguments, criticism, or overwhelming expectations. If every moment of distance results in a major emotional discussion, they may begin to see closeness as stressful rather than comforting. However, when someone responds with patience and understanding, it changes the emotional experience of the relationship. Instead of expecting pressure, they begin to experience acceptance. Remaining calm during distance does not mean becoming emotionally unavailable or pretending not to care. It means maintaining perspective. It means understanding that relationships naturally have periods of closeness and space. Rather than chasing reassurance, a confident person focuses on their own life, responsibilities, and personal growth while allowing the connection room to breathe. This creates a healthier dynamic where attraction can develop naturally instead of being driven by fear. Interestingly, calm confidence often encourages an avoidant person to move closer on their own. When they do not feel pursued or pressured, they have the opportunity to reconnect voluntarily. The relationship starts to feel like a choice rather than an obligation. That sense of freedom is incredibly important because avoidant individuals are often highly sensitive to anything that feels controlling or restrictive. Over time, emotional steadiness becomes deeply attractive. It creates trust because it demonstrates consistency and maturity. An avoidant person begins to realize that the relationship can survive moments of distance without chaos or drama. This lowers defenses and makes emotional connection feel safer. Ultimately, calm confidence acts like an emotional anchor. It provides stability during uncertain moments, reduces pressure, and creates an environment where intimacy can grow without fear. For someone who is accustomed to protecting themselves through distance, that kind of emotional security can be incredibly compelling and can gradually encourage a deeper level of commitment. One of the deepest psychological turn-ons for an avoidant person is feeling genuinely understood instead of judged. While many people focus on changing avoidant behavior, few realize how powerful it is to create an environment where someone feels accepted despite their struggles. For an avoidant individual, judgment often reinforces the very walls that keep emotional connection at a distance. Understanding, on the other hand, has the ability to slowly dissolve those walls and replace fear with trust. Many avoidant people spend a large portion of their lives feeling misunderstood. Their need for space is often interpreted as rejection. Their difficulty expressing emotions may be seen as a lack of care. Their hesitation around commitment can be mistaken for indifference. Over time, these misunderstandings can create a sense of isolation. Even when they deeply value a relationship, they may feel as though no one truly understands what is happening beneath the surface. This is why genuine understanding is so attractive. It creates a rare experience where someone feels seen rather than criticized. Instead of assuming negative intentions, an understanding person recognizes that avoidant behaviors often come from self-protection rather than a lack of feelings. This shift in perspective changes the emotional dynamic completely. Judgment tends to trigger defensiveness. When someone feels accused, criticized, or misunderstood, their instinct is often to protect themselves. They may withdraw further, shut down emotionally, or avoid difficult conversations altogether. Even well-intentioned comments can feel overwhelming if they carry an undertone of blame. Statements that suggest something is wrong with them or that they need to change immediately can create resistance rather than connection. Understanding works differently. It begins with curiosity instead of assumptions. Rather than asking, "Why are you acting this way?" in frustration, it asks, "What might be causing this response?" This approach reduces emotional pressure and creates space for honesty. When people feel safe from judgment, they become more willing to reveal the thoughts and feelings they normally keep hidden. Another reason understanding is so powerful is that it reduces shame. Many avoidant individuals are aware of their own patterns. They often recognize that they struggle with vulnerability, emotional expression, or closeness. In some cases, they may already feel frustrated with themselves for these difficulties. When others respond with criticism, that shame grows stronger. But when someone responds with empathy and patience, it creates relief. They no longer feel like they have to defend themselves or hide parts of who they are. Feeling understood also strengthens emotional trust. Trust is not built only through loyalty or consistency. It is built through emotional experiences that communicate safety. When someone listens carefully, validates feelings, and seeks to understand rather than judge, they create an environment where vulnerability becomes possible. The avoidant person begins to feel that opening up will not automatically lead to criticism, disappointment, or pressure. This does not mean accepting unhealthy behavior or ignoring personal boundaries. Healthy understanding involves compassion without losing self-respect. It means recognizing the difference between explaining a behavior and excusing it. The goal is not to tolerate everything, but to approach challenges with empathy rather than condemnation. Over time, this kind of emotional acceptance becomes incredibly attractive. It offers something many avoidant individuals rarely experience: the freedom to be imperfect while still feeling valued. When someone feels truly understood, they no longer need to hide behind emotional defenses as often. The walls that once felt necessary begin to lose their purpose. Ultimately, genuine understanding creates a foundation for deeper intimacy. It replaces fear with trust, shame with acceptance, and defensiveness with openness. And when an avoidant person feels seen for who they really are instead of being judged for their struggles, emotional connection can begin to grow in ways that once seemed impossible. Emotional consistency and reliability are among the most powerful forces in building trust with an avoidant person. While grand romantic gestures, intense emotional declarations, and dramatic displays of affection may seem impressive, they often do not create the lasting sense of security that an avoidant individual needs in order to fully open up. What truly lowers emotional defenses is something much simpler but far more meaningful: knowing that someone will show up in a steady, predictable, and dependable way over time. For many avoidant individuals, trust is not given quickly. It is earned gradually through repeated experiences that demonstrate stability. This is because avoidant attachment patterns are often rooted in experiences where emotional needs were met inconsistently. Whether those experiences occurred in childhood, past relationships, or other important connections, they can leave a lasting impression that relying on others is risky. As a result, many avoidant people learn to depend primarily on themselves. They may value relationships, but deep down they often question whether emotional closeness can truly be trusted. This is where consistency becomes so important. Consistency sends a message that words and actions match. It shows that affection is not temporary, attention is not unpredictable, and care does not disappear whenever circumstances become difficult. Every time someone follows through on a promise, communicates honestly, or behaves in a dependable manner, trust grows a little stronger. One reason consistency is so attractive is because it reduces uncertainty. Uncertainty can create anxiety for anyone, but it can be particularly challenging for avoidant individuals who already have concerns about emotional vulnerability. Mixed signals, unpredictable behavior, and fluctuating levels of interest can make relationships feel unsafe. If someone is warm and attentive one day but distant and unavailable the next, it becomes difficult to build confidence in the connection. Reliability removes that confusion. It creates a sense of emotional predictability that helps the relationship feel secure. Consistency also demonstrates emotional maturity. Anyone can be affectionate when things are easy. What truly matters is how someone behaves over time and across different situations. An avoidant person pays close attention to these patterns, even if they do not openly express it. They notice whether someone remains respectful during disagreements, whether promises are kept, and whether support continues during challenging moments. These experiences build credibility. Over time, reliability becomes more meaningful than any single romantic gesture. Another important aspect of emotional consistency is patience. Avoidant individuals often move through emotional closeness at a different pace than others. They may need more time to process feelings, more space to feel comfortable, and more experiences that prove a relationship is safe. Someone who remains steady throughout this process communicates a powerful message. There is no rush, no pressure, and no hidden agenda. This patience creates an environment where trust can develop naturally. Consistency also helps challenge negative expectations. If an avoidant person has learned to expect disappointment, instability, or emotional unpredictability, repeated experiences of reliability begin to rewrite those assumptions. They start to realize that closeness does not always lead to chaos. Relationships do not always require emotional exhaustion. Dependability becomes evidence that emotional connection can actually be a source of comfort rather than stress. Over time, emotional consistency creates a strong foundation that allows intimacy to grow. The avoidant person begins to feel safer expressing thoughts, sharing feelings, and investing more deeply in the relationship. What once felt risky starts to feel manageable. The walls that were built for protection become less necessary because trust is no longer based on hope alone. It is supported by repeated proof. Ultimately, emotional consistency and reliability are attractive because they provide exactly what many avoidant individuals secretly need most: a sense of safety. Not safety created through promises or pressure, but safety created through actions repeated over time. And when someone consistently demonstrates that they can be trusted, commitment begins to feel less like a risk and more like a natural next step. Authentic connection without games is one of the most powerful psychological turn-ons for an avoidant person because it creates an environment where trust can develop naturally. While many people believe attraction is built through mystery, manipulation, or carefully calculated strategies, avoidant individuals are often highly sensitive to anything that feels inauthentic. They may not always express it openly, but they tend to notice when someone is trying to force an emotional response, create jealousy, or gain control through indirect behavior. Instead of increasing attraction, these tactics often trigger caution and emotional distance. At the heart of every meaningful relationship is the desire to feel accepted for who you truly are. Avoidant individuals may struggle with vulnerability, but that does not mean they do not crave genuine connection. In fact, because they are often protective of their emotions, authenticity can feel incredibly refreshing. When someone communicates honestly and behaves consistently, it removes the uncertainty that can make relationships feel stressful. There is no need to guess intentions, decode hidden messages, or question motives. Everything feels more transparent, and transparency creates safety. Many relationship problems begin when people stop being genuine and start playing roles. They may pretend not to care in order to appear more attractive. They may withhold communication to create anxiety. They may hide their feelings because they fear rejection. Although these behaviors are often intended to increase interest, they usually create confusion instead. For an avoidant person who already finds emotional closeness challenging, confusion can become another reason to keep protective walls in place. Authenticity works differently. It allows people to interact from a place of honesty rather than strategy. Honest communication does not mean sharing every thought immediately or forcing emotional conversations. It simply means expressing intentions clearly, speaking truthfully, and behaving in a way that reflects genuine feelings. This kind of openness is attractive because it creates emotional clarity. An avoidant person does not have to wonder whether affection is real or whether kindness comes with hidden expectations. Another reason authenticity is so powerful is that it encourages trust. Trust cannot grow when people feel manipulated. It grows when actions consistently align with words. If someone says they care and then demonstrates that care through respectful behavior, reliability, and honesty, the relationship begins to feel more secure. Avoidant individuals often take longer to trust than others, but they are usually paying close attention to whether someone is genuine. Over time, authenticity becomes evidence that the relationship is safe enough to invest in emotionally. Authentic connection also allows vulnerability to emerge naturally. Many avoidant people fear being judged, pressured, or misunderstood when they reveal their deeper emotions. When they encounter someone who is comfortable being real without demanding perfection, it becomes easier to lower their defenses. They begin to realize that they do not have to hide parts of themselves to maintain the connection. This realization can be incredibly freeing. Being authentic also means maintaining personal integrity. It means expressing needs respectfully, setting healthy boundaries, and staying true to personal values rather than changing to gain approval. Ironically, this kind of self-respect often increases attraction because it demonstrates confidence and emotional maturity. An avoidant person is more likely to feel comfortable around someone who knows who they are and communicates openly than someone who constantly shifts behavior in an attempt to secure validation. As trust deepens, the relationship begins to feel less like a negotiation and more like a partnership. There is less fear, less confusion, and less emotional guesswork. The connection becomes rooted in honesty, mutual respect, and genuine understanding. For an avoidant person, this can be incredibly compelling because it removes many of the emotional pressures that typically trigger withdrawal. Ultimately, authentic connection without games creates the conditions where real intimacy can flourish. It replaces uncertainty with clarity, manipulation with trust, and fear with emotional safety. When an avoidant person feels that a relationship is built on sincerity rather than strategy, the walls that once protected them often begin to soften. And in that space of honesty and trust, commitment becomes far easier to embrace because the connection feels real, secure, and worth investing in.